guys, welcome to another episode of the Lion and Liverpool podcast. This is like a continuation of the previous podcast where we had. We discussed the 2005 Champions League win for Liverpool and how big it was for the club and what it meant to the Liverpool fans. Uh, Now we want to discuss the 2012 Champions League win for Chelsea. Maybe note down some of the similarities between the two title runs and also what it meant for Chelsea at that time. So over to you, Rohit. Maybe you can just give us a brief history of Chelsea's European pedigree before this huge moment in their uh, Champions League runs.
Yeah, I think Chelsea in Europe hadn't done too well. Obviously, not as well as Liverpool. Liverpool has a much more illustrious history, but Chelsea had won a few trophies in Europe before 2012. They had won a couple of, I think, Cup Winners' Cup is what it was called. So essentially, whoever wins your domestic cup competition, they kind of play against each other, which sounds interesting to me. Very much like the Europa League in today's age. And they'd also won some European UEFA Super Cups, which is basically, the winner of the Cup Winners' Cup and the Champions League or something like that. But the main thing was the Champions League, the biggest trophy in club football in the world, had evaded us. And for good reason, right? Chelsea, weren't really punching above their weight, or they weren't at the very top of European football.
Mhm.
But of course, that changed in 2003. Roman Abramovich, the Russian billionaire, bought Chelsea in 2003. Of course, he put a lot of money into the club and, bought a lot of good players, brought in, Mourinho as a coach, and a lot of success followed, right? After 2003, between 2003 and 2012, Chelsea was one of the most successful teams in England. We had won three Premier Leagues, three FA Cups, two League Cups since then. But again, even in this period of relative prosperity in terms of trophies, the Champions League had still evaded us, right? And painfully so, because in 2008, Chelsea lost in the Champions League finals on penalties to Manchester United.
Oh yeah, I
Particularly,
remember that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's particularly painful because John Terry, who was our captain, and he's a
Leader, legend.
legendary figure. Yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly. A legendary figure, captain of the club. He had the chance to win the final in the because he was taking the last penalty, and if he scored, we would win. And he slipped. While taking the
Yeah.
penalty, he slipped, and then it went into sudden death, and Nicholas Nelka missed, and tears all around. But Chelsea still had a good core at that point of time. A lot of legendary players were playing at that point of time at Chelsea. Terry, Lampard, Drogba, Cech, Ashley Cole, and so we were competitive again in the next year too. In
Oh yeah.
2009, another
Oh
travesty
yeah.
happened. Yeah, this
So,
was
so
in the
this is the
semifinals.
one.
Yeah.
No, this is the one where Drogba shouts to the camera, right? This is a
Yes.
joke. This is a joke.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not repeating the expletives,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
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 Oh, it's a disgrace. Sorry, not a joke. This is a disgrace. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, 2009, essentially in the semifinals, Chelsea lost to Barcelona, essentially on away goals rules, and
Mhm.
the second leg was at Stamford Bridge, and the refereeing was absolutely horrendous. They
Oh yeah,
didn't
yeah.
give multiple penalty calls. They, I think, ruled out one of Chelsea's goals, and it was just horrible. Anyways, yeah, there was a lot of kind of fallout as a reason. The referee got death threats, which should never happen. But it was again, it's us against the world mentality. What does Chelsea need to do to win the Champions
Hmm.
League? So that was kind of the setup for what was about to happen a few years down the line. But interestingly, in 2011, 2012, Chelsea were not at the top of the game anymore.
Hmm.
Right. So Carlo Ancelotti, who was our, coach from 2009 to 11, had left. We had gotten Andre Villas-Boas. He's a coach, young coach
He
out of
was up and
Portugal.
coming.
Yeah,
There was a lot of expectations from him. Like he
yeah,
was
yeah.
gonna like. So I believe he was compared a bit to Mourinho at that time. He was
Absolutely, because
Portuguese,
very similar
and
path, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
young manager. He was in charge of Porto the year before, and
Hmm.
only for 1 year, mind you. He was in charge of Porto 2010 to 2011. I think 33 years old.
Hmm.
And in his first season, he won the treble with Porto. He won the
Oh, wow.
Portuguese league, yeah, and he won a couple of cups and all of that. So here is this up and coming, young, successful Portuguese manager from Porto, who of course Chelsea had to poach, right? Because it's like Mourinho's second coming, Mourinho 2.0. Right. So essentially, Chelsea actually had to pay a world record fee at that point of time to Porto to poach AVD under VS Boas. But things didn't go too well, at least to begin with in the season. Chelsea weren't doing great. There were issues within the squad. The coach took a very confrontational approach, which I don't
Hmm.
think really works, especially when you have a very established core who are kind of on the older side, right? So he picked fights with everybody. I think Terry, Lampard, Ashley Cole, so on
Oh,
and so forth.
yeah. You're not
Yeah,
gonna win that,
yeah,
especially at that
exactly.
time.
Exactly. So things weren't, going really well, and unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. Essentially, he was also fired mid-season. So things like essentially weren't, looking peachy. So there was no real expectation from us that we'll do well in the Champions League because normally, we were on the way down, if you could kind of think of it that way. The other aspect was Chelsea's core that I keep talking about, right? The legendary core that we had with Petr at goal, John Terry in defense, Lampard in midfield, Ashley Cole, and Drogba. They were all above 30, right? And well above 30. Drogba was 33, 34. And they had been instrumental in our success over the years. And it was coming to the point where, okay, these guys are probably not going to be able to win the Champions League anymore. Much similar, in a similar way to Gerard's Premier League pursuit. He came
Oh,
so close, but he couldn't get it over the line. And that's what we thought for all these players. Champions League was going to be that kind of hill that they can't climb. Anyway, so there wasn't really too much expectation that year, but we did sign a couple of very crucial players. Although the manager, was not very successful, we signed a couple of very crucial players that year who were instrumental in our success in the Champions League. So we signed Juan Mata
oh
from
yeah.
Valencia, and we actually signed Raul Morales from Liverpool. Both of them
So
were
yeah, so
instrumental. Yeah,
that was one transfer that really hit me hard
yeah.
because I don't think Liverpool were anything that great during that time period.
Hmm.
And Mireles seemed to be a midfielder. I wouldn't say he was like the best in the world or something, but he was somebody who would get around, would do almost everything. And you
Yes.
needed somebody who had that, mentality that, I will fight for the team, I'll fight for the club. He had
Exactly.
all these crazy tattoos all over
Yeah.
him. So that was a transfer I really did not like. I mean, obviously losing a player that also to a rival, direct rival. So yeah, that
Yeah.
hurt me a lot, Mireles.
That's exactly true, right? Raul Morales was like a street fighter, right?
Yep.
If you are in a fight, you'd want him by
A
your
Diego
side.
Costa.
Exactly. Diego Costa in midfield, that too, in a very
Yeah, yeah,
crucial
yeah.
position. And he scored some very important goals for us. He was important in a lot of matches. And then, of course, Juan Mata, right? Juan Mata, one of my favorite Chelsea players. We signed him from Valencia, and he was actually Chelsea Player of the
Player
Season
of the
two
year. Yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
years, 2 years back to
Yep,
back. The
yep.
first year he joined, and the second year. And
Then
after that, Mourinho came in for a second stint and just sold him to Manchester United.
yeah, I mean,
That's
what?
been that saga was one of the saddest transfers out of Chelsea that I've had to face. I was like, why are you sending this guy who's been player of the season for the past 2 seasons? But when Mata joined from Valencia, he added a technical skill and technical proficiency that was kind of lacking in Chelsea, at least up front back then. We had players like Malouda and Solomon Kalou. They were really
Mhm.
good in what they did, but the technical finesse was a little lacking, and that's kind of what Mata filled in. So, we got some, fight in the form of Raul Morales and some technical finesse in the form of Mata, who would both be very crucial to the Champions League run. Okay, now let's kind of get into the actual run in the tournament that Chelsea had, right?
So
So
you guys
Chelsea,
had a
yeah,
pretty decent group, right? I mean, it wasn't
yes,
something very difficult.
no,
Uh,
but yeah, but
yeah. So
we weren't doing very well.
correct, correct.
Villas-Boas was still in charge at that point of time, and we had Bayern Leverkusen, Valencia, and Genk in our team, in our group. And although Chelsea ended up topping the group at the end of the day, it required a win at home on the very last day of the group stage to achieve that. So we were facing Valencia the last day
Ah,
of the group stage, and we needed to beat them to finish top. And interestingly, Valencia at that time was coached by Unai Emery, who's doing really
oh,
well at Aston Villa right
Aston
now.
Villa. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the other team in our group, which was Genk, is from Belgium, that had De Bruyne, and who we ended
Oh,
up
wow.
buying, yeah, after that. So I was looking at some of these old videos, and some of these memories came back, and it was very, very fascinating. Um, so about the group stage, the one thing I wanted to kind of point out was, like I said, right, Chelsea didn't really run away with it, although they should have, looking at the quality of the opposition. And it needed a big performance the last day at Stamford Bridge, and up stepped Didier Drogba. He scored two
Uh,
goals, and then we won against Valencia comfortably, and we topped the group. Uh, but behind the scenes, there was trouble brewing. Chelsea weren't doing well in the league. We lost a whole bunch of games. Again, like I said, Villas-Boas was fighting with all these players, benching some of the senior players, having issues, and that brought us to the round of 16 game against
oh, yeah.
Napoli, away to Napoli.
Oh,
And
bro.
this
And
Napoli
this
side,
Napoli team,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
exactly.
insane.
I wanted to talk about that with you, right? Napoli team,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was such a hipster team. It was so good.
Oh,
It
yeah.
had Cavani, Lavezzi, Hamšík, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
attack, they were
I
so
think
deadly.
Goran Pandev,
Yeah,
crazy,
yep,
crazy team they
yep,
had. Like,
yeah.
if you didn't follow Juventus or one of the Milan teams, you would expect, you would wish that Napoli did well. So, yeah, absolutely insane team.
Yep, yep. And so, Chelsea took a fractured team to Napoli, and of course, we lost 3-1. So, okay,
Yeah.
we are not doing well in the league. We're definitely not going to win. We obviously won't probably make the top four. Now we're getting kicked out round of 16. And Roman Abramovich acts, he essentially fires Andre Villas-Boas, although he signed him, I don't know, 8 months before the world record fee. It was clearly not working.
Yeah.
And who becomes the coach in the interim? Another Chelsea legend, Roberto Di Matteo. He was already an assistant coach. He was helping out Andre Villas-Boas, but now, he gets the mantle. So there is, not much hope because Di Matteo is also, not very experienced as a manager. He's not,
So basically, a stopgap till the end of the season
yeah,
and to ensure,
stopgap. The only good thing is, there's a feel good factor because he's a Chelsea
Hmm.
legend, an ex player. So maybe he can do something. And so, we are trailing 3-1 and we play Napoli at Stamford Bridge. And, that is when people started believing. Essentially, we turned over that 3-1
Hmm.
deficit and we won 4-1 at Stamford Bridge
Yeah, yeah.
uh, to go through to the quarterfinal, and that victory was amazing. That's one of the Champions League nights that I really will remember forever. And all our big guns kind of contributed. Drogba scored, Terry
Terry
scored, Lampard scored.
Lampard scored.
Yeah, and then finally, it went into extra time because in the 90 minutes it ended up 3-1. So 3-1,
Mhm.
3-1 canceled each other out, and in the extra time Ivanovic, who was our right back, he scored the winner, and he was assisted by Drogba.
I think
Uh,
Ivanovic is one of those unsung heroes of the Chelsea team for a long time.
oh,
So,
he's
uh,
definitely a legend. Yep, yep.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So, I mean, Chelsea fans would obviously say he's a legend, but non-Chelsea fans, I've always talked about players who aren't maybe the greatest in terms of technical ability and all, but giving 100% all the time.
Yeah.
And Ivanovic was one of them. So he would play right back. I remember he played a lot of games as centre back also.
Yes.
And he just seemed to be someone who's a no-nonsense player who'd give his all, and he'd always give you an 8 out of 10 performance. I mean, I rarely saw him make big mistakes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Yeah, you make a very good point there, right? Like Ivanovic was somebody who's very strong, very good in the air, very good in tackling, good one-on-one defending. But for a right back, maybe he
Yeah,
wasn't like really great going forward. But
forward.
he had,
Yep.
but he had a good shot on him, right? But then that kind of goes to show if you set your team up properly, you can maybe hide or essentially avoid any major shortcomings that a player might have. But Ivanovic was a very complete player, in the defensive aspect of it, and he could score. So that's something I wanted to talk to you about, right? How important it is that your defenders can contribute to the score line, right? Essentially, we had Terry, Cahill, Ivanovic, and David Luiz. All of these guys, they were center backs or right backs. They could all score. Terry is actually, I think, the highest scoring center back in the Premier League, or something like that. And that's something that Chelsea currently,
You guys had
lack
Alex also, right?
at some
The
point of time.
Brazilian.
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah,
he
yeah,
had this cannon of a foot, taking
yes.
free kicks for fun.
Yep, yep, yep. So I think this is a very important aspect, right? If you are trying to win a tournament, your defenders at least should be able to score a couple of goals from
Mm.
set pieces and so on and so forth. Especially when things get tough and things get very close. So, anyways, Chelsea get past Napoli, which we never expected, with Roberto Di Matteo at the helm. And then we are drawn against Benfica in the quarterfinal. Benfica team, was actually less threatening than Napoli, so we were fairly certain that okay, this is a favorable draw. That you got the luck of the draw, and we should be able to go through. And we did. We beat Benfica 1-0 away and 2-1 at home. Solomon Kalou was one of the scorers, assisted by Fernando Torres. So a couple of interesting things there, right? I remember when Chelsea got Solomon Kalou, Liverpool had bought Dirk Kuyt, from the same team. And then there was a kind of debate as to who got the better player. So Kalou was really helpful and really good for Chelsea, for many years. And the same for Dirk Kuyt, right, for Liverpool.
Kaut will remain one of the most like I don't know how to explain. So Dutch players, you believe they always have the great first touch, Johan Cruyffesque.
Yeah.
Liverpool got two Dutch players in that era, Ryan Babel and Dirk Kuyt, who had the worst first touches you will ever see. Like they would touch the ball and it would end up 10 yards in front of them. You look
The
at all
worst.
compilations. Ryan Babel could not run with the ball, man. I don't know how we got him. He was so highly rated at Ajax. Kaut, they called him the Energizer Rabbit because he used to
Yeah.
do so much running. And he used to pop up at the right place to score goals. But I don't know how. I really don't understand what he was for us in terms of a technical ability. I mean, sure, he could run maybe 15, 20 kilometers in a game. But apart from that, so yeah, I really don't know who won that. So Kalu had a lot of pace with him. I remember that he was very quick.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, did either club really win that? I don't know. I think it's a draw.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that always kind of tells you something like hindsight is always 2020, right? Especially also when we are younger, we are all trying to kind of fight. Oh, we got the better
yeah.
player, but it doesn't really matter. Both of them have their legacies at the club. Yeah, and Solomon Kalou was also from Ivory Coast, which kind of helped,
Mm.
with him and Didier Drogba both being
Drogba.
from the same country. That was pretty good. And the other thing I wanted to talk about in the match against Benfica was Lampard scored a penalty, and then Raul Morales scored an amazing goal, a very
Mm.
powerful shot from distance. That was one of the best goals that we scored that year. And like you said, Morales was a very kind of utility-based player who was kind of always up for the fight. He had a good shot. Um, so already we can kind of see a lot of different players are contributing to our progress through these stages. But now we're at the
Oh
dreaded
yeah.
semifinals.
And
And the
who do you
dreaded,
pick? Who
dreaded
do you get?
semifinals, we get Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, right?
Oh
Chelsea,
wow.
Barcelona. We've had quite a few duels in the last, few years. Like I said,
Mm.
there was that infamous match, and Barcelona were filled with amazing, amazing footballers, right? They
Oh
had
yeah.
Messi, you had Iniesta, you had Fabregas, you had peak
Xavi.
Busquets, you had peak Xavi. I think it was basically, coming up
I think
against.
they also had Henri at that time, right? Was it Henry
Uh,
or was it the Ronaldinho Larson team?
no, I think yeah, it was probably later. Yeah, because Fabregas was kind of playing false nines and all of that. So yeah, I don't think if Henry was there, Fabregas would have been playing the false nine.
Hmm.
Uh, so essentially, coming up
Oh, they
against
had
our
Pedro. Sorry, they had
yeah,
Pedro.
Pedro. Oh my God, that guy was so good. I mean, he came to Chelsea as well, and he was really good for Chelsea as well.
Oh,
It's
okay.
amazing when he came to Chelsea. You could see the pedigree in him, right? Certain players you can see it. Like he could score, off both feet. He's just an amazing player. So, anyways, now we definitely don't stand a chance against this Barcelona team. We go into the first leg, but thankfully the first leg was at Stamford Bridge.
Hmm.
We get battered throughout the game, but Didier Drogba comes up with the winner. Ramirez sets him up, and Chelsea score, and they go 1-0 up, and then they defend for the rest of the game, and we actually win, which is pretty amazing. Ramirez again, a very pivotal
Oh
figure
yeah,
that year. Amazing footballer, very 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 interesting in the way I remember Ramirez was so good when it came to clutch moments.
hmm,
When he came up one on one with the goalkeeper, he was amazing. He gave good passes, and he had a really good engine. So
mm,
in midfield, it's very very important. So, anyways, I wouldn't say we were optimistic going into Nou Camp in the away leg. We had a very slender lead, 1-0,
yeah.
and we thought, okay, Barcelona will probably score more at home, and they'll still get past us. And the match started, and it went exactly according to script. We went 2-0 down pretty immediately.
Yeah,
I think Busquets actually scored and Iniesta scored. So
correct.
we are already getting kicked out, and this was probably within 15 or 20 minutes. So 2-0 down. On top of that, John Terry gets sent off for a tackle from behind.
Oh,
So now we are 2-0 down away from home with 10 men. And okay, so we are definitely going to go down. How many goals are we going to concede? Is it going to be 4-0? Is it going to be 5-0? But something very strange happens, very much against the flow of the
the run.
game.
Yeah.
Ramirez, is put through on goal by Lampard. A beautiful pass, and then Ramirez gets the ball, runs, and then nonchalantly
He
chips
chipped
Victor
Victor
Valdez.
Valdez. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, he
it was a
chipped him, right?
goal, this thing of beauty. That's the
It's
thing
the
with
last thing you would
Ramirez. Yeah.
expect Ramirez to do.
Yeah, no, not really. So the thing with Ramirez is you were talking about first touches, and we were talking about finesse, right? In other parts of the field, Ramirez's first touch and his skills were okay, right? He had a really good engine. He could, play a decent pass. But when it came to the clutch moments, when it came to facing the goal, he became like prime, like R9 Ronaldo. Like
Oh,
some of his finishing was amazing. And he was always cool and calm. And at a stage like that, to execute a chip that was so exquisite, it's just
yeah.
amazing. So, anyways, we go into halftime. Now we are 2-1.
With the advantage. Yeah, you have the
Yes,
advantage away
yeah,
goals, which has been
exactly.
removed from the Champions League now.
Yes. So there's no
European
away
Cup.
goals now. Back to the game, and we go into the halftime 2-1. So we are leading kind of overall. It's actually 2-2, and we have the away goal. So we are going through. And the second half just becomes like a rear guard action of defend,
Mm.
defend, defend. There are like umpteen number of chances that Barcelona has to score. They Petr Cech has an amazing game as usual. Great shot stopper. He makes like innumerable number of saves, but
I think
penalty.
Messi missed
Yeah,
up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The penalty,
Messi
right?
gets a
Yeah, yeah.
penalty, and you're like, okay, Messi gets a penalty. He's gonna score. We're gonna get kicked out, and lo and behold, Messi misses.
Yeah.
Hits the bar. And an interesting thing, for the longest time, Messi actually hadn't scored against Chelsea. I think for over like
Hmm.
4 years, the various times that
There
we
was a
met
running
in
joke that
Barcelona.
he
Yeah,
can't score against Chelsea or
Petr,
against Petr
yeah,
Cech.
Petr Cech.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, yeah. So and then dying stages of the match, Chelsea, everybody's defending, everybody's back, defending. and then the ball breaks, and it breaks to Fernando Torres, and he runs the length of the pitch. He rounds
Rounds the
Victor
keeper.
Valdez, rounds the keeper, and he scores a goal right at the end of the match. So the match ends 2-2, and that goal is famous for Gary Neville, who was commentating. He had that orgasmic scream.
Yeah, yeah.
Scream. He just went like crazy, crazy, crazy. It was fun. We all lost it. I remember losing it and like jumping out of joy. And so, Fernando Torres also had a very crucial part to play in our run. So essentially, the match ends 2-2. Chelsea win 3-2 overall, and Chelsea go through to the finals. It's pretty unbelievable. So that's when we kind of started to believe, in a sense, that there's
Mhm.
something, that might happen, something that's, there's a feeling in the air that, okay, we might, be able to at least compete in the final. But in the finals, we are up against another giant, Bayern Munich. Not
That
only are,
that
yeah,
Bayern Munich was an insane team
yes,
also.
yes. Not only are we up against Bayern Munich, we are also up against them at their home ground, because
Home.
the final was at the Allianz Arena in Munich.
Munich.
And so Bayern Munich is a better team. So we talked about Ribbon and Robbery in our injury episode. So they
Yeah.
had Ribbon and Robbery on the wings. They had Muller.
Schweinsteiger,
They had
Lahm, Cruz,
Schweinsteiger. They had
Mario
Cruz.
Gomez,
Yep, yep.
David Alaba.
Yeah.
So he was
No,
up
I
and
don't
coming
think
at
they
that
had
time.
Alaba at that time. They
They did,
had
they did, they did.
Contento. They had Boateng. So essentially a superstar team.
Yeah. Crazy good.
So much better team. They had a very experienced manager in Job Henkels,
Mm.
and then we had our Roberto Di Matteo coming up against him. So essentially, all odds were against us. And not only that, we were not going to have John Terry, who was sent off in the
Oh
previous match.
yeah.
We were not going to have Ivanovic. We were not going to have Ramirez, and we were not going to have Raul Morales. So the team would be very bare bones, because all of these guys had yellow cards and they were ruled out of the final. So much like Liverpool against AC Milan, we went into the game as firm underdogs. In
Uh-huh.
fact, Roberto Di Matteo started Ryan Bertrand, a young left back, on the left wing instead of
Oh wow.
any attacking player. Yeah. So on the left hand side, we actually had Ashley Cole and Ryan Bertrand. So essentially trying to stop Robin, I guess. Robin and Lam were on that wing, and we were trying to stop them, I guess. So the game was set up, pretty straightforward. Chelsea would defend, take the game deep, and then
Mm.
try to get away with something. And we took it deep. We took it to the 83rd minute, but
Right.
unfortunately, at the 83rd minute, Thomas Muller scored.
He
It was
had to be him. I
yes,
mean,
it's
yeah.
amazing. We'll be talking about players like Muller, right, and in an episode coming
Yeah.
up. Uh, he scored a header and Cruz assisted, and where we
Mm.
are like, okay, this
That's
this
it.
game is this game is done. This game is done. And then interestingly, Torres didn't start the game, but Torres was brought on, and around
Mm.
88 minute mark, Torres wins a corner. Uh,
Mm.
and then, Juan Mata is going to take the corner, the last chance saloon, and Mata curls the ball in. Drogba gets ahead of his marker in the front post, and a bullet header past Neuer. And, all the fans lose their mind, absolutely lose their mind. So it's 1-1. So, okay, we can at least take the game into extra time.
Right.
But extra time also, plays out pretty much the same. Chelsea defends. Czech makes a lot of saves. But Drogba, our big game, goal scorer, the legend, he ends up fouling Ribery inside the
Oh
penalty
yeah.
box, and Robin has a chance to win it in extra time with the penalty, and Robin fluffs his line. Petacek saves. Just goes to show how much pressure and having a good goalkeeper in front of you can get to you, right? So we get past extra time, and we are into penalties. And everybody knows, penalties. It's almost impossible to beat the Germans, right? They're always so cool, calm, and collected, and they always get the job done.
Mm.
Uh, and Mata steps up to take the first penalty, and he misses. Like,
Ooh.
okay, finally, at least we had a good run. We're gonna lose this in penalties, but at least we took it to penalties. Uh, you know, Bayern Munich, I think the first two or three
The
people
first three
they
went
take
in.
their penalties. Yeah, the first three
Lam,
penalties
Gomez,
went in.
and Neuer. Neuer
Yep.
was the third penalty take. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
that's like a breaker for you mentally, right? I mean, your
Yes.
goalkeeper is
Goalkeeper
beating the
steps
other.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, as the
Goalkeeper
number
steps up
third.
and scores.
Yeah,
But thankfully, the other penalty takers of Chelsea also did a good job. So David
yeah,
Luiz
yeah,
scored. He had this gigantic run up. He would come in and smash the ball in.
yeah, yeah. I
Lampard
remember.
scored, and Ashley Cole scored an amazing penalty. I don't know, whether you could put it further into the corner. It was an amazing low shot right into the corner. And then, things changed a little bit for us. Olic, who was their striker,
Mm,
he had the penalty saved. Petacek made a
yeah,
brilliant save. And then Schweinsteiger, German legend, you'd never expect
yeah,
him to miss. He steps up
right.
and he hits the post. So that was essentially the last penalty that Bayern had. And up steps Drogba, Didier Drogba, for the last penalty kick of that particular stint. And not just that, the last penalty of the game, but it was also going to be Drogba's last kick for the club, because he was going to move on, because he's
Oh,
about
wow.
to move to a different country and so on and so forth. He did come back a couple of years later, but that was Drogba's last kick, for his legendary stint at the club,
Mm,
and he scores.
wow.
Chelsea win. I remember I was in Gujarat in the middle of nowhere, middle of the night, watching this game
Bharuch.
alone. Yeah, not even Bharuch. This place called Dahej, which is outside Bharuch.
Oh, right, the Dahej. So there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Bharuch and the Dahej. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Bharuch was the city close to Dahej, and I remember I lost it. I was running around, the apartments that we were staying in, and that was. I think, yeah, I asked you the question last time, right? Has the recent Liverpool
Mm,
Champions League win supplanted your initial win in 2008? And you said no, and it's the same for me. That
yeah.
night was the biggest night for me as a Chelsea fan. And even now, when I look back at some of the videos and highlights, it gives me goosebumps. It was that big of an achievement. So, Chelsea lift the Champions League for the first time ever. And
The only London
yeah,
club to have won the Champions League also,
yes,
right?
the only club in London to have won the Champions League. I don't know. Arsenal, Tottenham, they haven't won it yet. Tottenham, yeah, came close, but yeah, they couldn't
Nah,
win
they
it.
weren't close. They weren't close. We dominated that match. Come on.
I mean,
Tottenham?
1-0, I would say in the final is
2
close,
0.
right?
It
Yeah,
was 2 0. It was 2
was
0.
it 2-0?
2
Okay,
0.
okay. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, they came at least to the finals. And yeah, but yeah, the only club in the London to win the Champions League, and the first club to have the three main UEFA club competitions, right? So that was pretty cool. And a couple of themes, right? One thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that Drogba, he in his last season for the club at that point of time, uh, was such a crucial player. He's known as the ultimate big game player. I saw somewhere he has 10 goals in 10 finals and with 10 trophies. So if you
Wow.
look at his overall numbers in the Premier League, he's obviously a really good striker, but his numbers are not elite.
Hmm.
Uh, but what is elite is his big game mentality and his ability to step up on the biggest stage and be counted for. That season, I was just looking at the numbers. So if you combine goals and assists, who do you think got the highest number of goals and assists?
For Chelsea,
Yeah, in the
I'd
Champions League.
say in the Champions League, Mata,
No, I mean it was Drogba. Drogba had
okay,
8, so he had 6 goals and 2. Who do you think was second? Goals plus assist. It was
Terry.
not Mara. No, it was Fernando Torres.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah,
Curveball.
yeah. I mean, when I think back about the Champions League, of course, yeah, he did score that good, important goal against Barcelona, and then he did get the corner. But I didn't realize that he had the second highest goals plus assists. So then of course we had Mata scoring and assisting, and then Lampard, Ramirez. A lot of the kind of responsibility was spread across, so we had contributions from all across the field. Before we end out the podcast, let's talk about what happened as a
Yeah,
result,
what
right?
happened after? Correct.
So we also won the FA Cup that year. We beat Liverpool 2-1. I don't know how we achieved that, but that was pretty cool. So we won the Champions League and the FA Cup. But the league was a lost case. We
Yeah,
finished sixth, but fortunately we qualified as champions for the next
champions.
year. And that was crucial because the fact that we were Champions League winners and we had Champions League was, enabled us to buy Eden Hazard. It was another Chelsea
So I
legend.
remember Azad was
Yeah.
asked, he was at Lille, and they asked him, who are you signing for?
Yes.
And he said the
Yes.
Champions League winners. Now, there was a lot of
Yes.
confusion regarding that because some were saying he's going to Bayern or Real because they had also won Champions Leagues. So it was very confusing because he never specified it was you guys. He just
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
Champions League winners.
Yeah, and there were so many clubs after him, and
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
he proved to be a pivotal player for Chelsea, an amazing player, and we were able to sign him. We also
Hmm.
signed Oscar, who was really good for us for a couple of seasons. We signed Aspilicueta, who's another
Oh,
legend,
yeah.
the club captain. We signed Victor Moses. Of course, Roberto Di Matteo, becoming the Champions League winning coach, he
Had to
got
get
the
the
permanent,
full-time job.
yeah,
Yeah.
he got the permanent job. But unfortunately, next season he didn't do very well. Only lasted till November, and then guess who took over next year from Roberto Di Matteo? It was Rafa Benitez, Liverpool's
Oh.
Champions League winning coach. And then, yeah, that year we did go on to win the Europa League as well. So that was pretty cool. Uh, so, just to kind of summarize, right? A fairy tale, ending for Chelsea, very much like Liverpool in 2008. We're not expected to win. We were up against Giants in their home ground, and Chelsea won. And these are the kind of nights that make your life as a fan amazing. And with that, I'd like to end the podcast here. And again, thank everybody for joining us and listening to us. And then please like, share, and subscribe.